During the past several years, Professor Renato Constantino has been an articulate advocate of the importance of the correct understanding of a Filipino past in order to have insight into the problems of the present. Constantino, like Rizal, views history as a means of liberation for the Filipino people, continuing the effort begun in his earlier writings, The Past Revisited. On the eve of the Japanese invasion, the Philippines as a country securely incorporated into the American colonial framework, despite intensifying class conflict in Central Luzon and militant unionism in Manila and one or two other urban areas. This status remained essentially unchallenged. 4 decades of American occupation had shaped Philippine society and the American image, and had instilled in most Filipinos a colonial mentality, which effectively eroded the revolutionary consciousness that had been attained at the turn of the century. The Philippine Revolution of 1896. This revolutionary consciousness was the product of centuries of local revolts, which finally evolved into a national movement. The Philippine Revolution was the result of the conjuncture of the unarticulated striving of the Filipino people and the articulation of the ideologies of emerging elite. The material factors that generated the people's developing the struggles and the evolution of national consciousness also induced the economic growth of the native elite, which in the late 19th century emerged as the political and cultural product of Spanish colonialism and of Philippine participation in world capitalist trade. The revolution represented a temporary amalgam of the particular interest of the elite in the general demands of the masses, which eventually broke down into its respective components during and after the attainment of national status and subsequent incorporation of this new state into the American colonial empire. As the revolutionary forces began to suffer reverses, the elite, anxious to protect their own economic position, adopted a capitalizationist and collaborative attitude toward the new colonists. This development is not surprising, for it should be recalled that even their participation in the reform movement and in the revolution had been largely impelled by their desire to remove the colonial restriction of their and social ascendancy, the unity of national identity and revolutionary consciousness. Over the years, this objective was accomplished gradually but truly by means of massive campaign of acculturation by the process of miseducation and by the implementation of American political institutions and customs in the involving colonial society. The result was a people with a national identity but with a steadily eroded sense of national consciousness. The subtle application of colonial techniques finally produced a colonial society which forgot the brutalities of the American military campaign of suppression and accepted American claims of altruism of gospel of truth. Colonial politics became a vehicle for the political education of the Filipino as a colonial citizen at the same time that it successfully coopted into the American colonial establishment. A new generation of leaders to succeed the Ilustrado collaborationist Philippine politics. Throughout the 40 years of occupation, uprising continued to occur with relative frequency, and almost all of them raised the banner of independence. The Sakdal movement of mid-1930s, the labor unions in Manila under radical leadership, and the Peasant Union of Central Luzon, which came under the influence of both the socialist movement of Pedro Abad Santos and the newly established Communist Party, revealed in their slogan, programs of actions and demands, and awareness of interrelation between mass poverty and the colonial economy, and understanding imperialism. The Filipinos saw world event of 1930s through American eyes and responded as American colonials. Communist parties all over the world began to implement in their respective countries a Comintern directed to organize a united front against fascism. Filipino Communist Party leaders who had been pardoned are released from jail in December 1936 exerted great effort to establish anti-fascists united from various sectors of society. The United Front policy created a dilemma for radical leaders in Central Zone. This region was then a cauldron of discontent. Peasant and labor organizations were increasing the tempo of their struggle and gaining new strength. Pedro Abad Santos, vice chairman of the emerged communist and socialist parties. The grant of independence in 1946. Japanese economic penetration began as a purely private venture, but the footholds Japanese businessmen acquired were later used as basis for official propaganda initiative and clandestine intelligence gathering operations. In 1903, when the Americans decided on Baguio as a summer capital, they imported 1,500 Japanese colonies to build the zigzag road to that city. By 1907, their leader, a foreman named Kuyasabusu S. Ota, had formed the Ota Development Company. By 1990, there were some 60 Japanese corporations. They employed 10,000 laborers. First evidences of official interest in Davao's Japanese colony in 1923. By 1935, the Japanese accounted for 80% of abaca production of Davao, which was 48% of the country total production. The Japanese is also devoted to deep-sea fishing. By 1930, had attained practically complete control of this industry, about 90%. The Japanese propaganda was the center of concentration and testing ground was on Davao, but Manila and the result of the country were also covered. They built monuments to honor Japanese leaders whom they proclaimed as the builders of Davao. In 1941, Japanese corporation even financed a newspaper of their own to counteract the stories about Japanese autocracies in the Western press. Japanese propagandists described the authority result of Japan's developments in China and Machinan. Filipinos were reminded of the geographical proximity of the two countries and of their common Oriental origins. The Filipinos had become almost completely westernized of Marshal. MacArthur was afforded the title of Field Marshal to give the position of military advisor greater importance. It was provided for in the National Defense Act passed by the Inauguration of Philippine Commonwealth on November 15, 1935. Dwight E. Eisenhower, then MacArthur's Chief of Staff, later revealed that he had tried to persuade MacArthur to refuse the little since it was pompous and rather ridiculous to be the Field Marshal of a virtually non-existing army. On December 4, 1941, George Vargas, Secretary of President Quezon, he recalls the last banking day, which is on December 1941. MacArthur directed Vargas.
Thumbs up!
MacArthur Defense Plan. MacArthur Defense Plan called for a large service force of citizen soldiers to supplement a small professional army. All Filipino boys was required to undergo military training and the age of 20 to serve for 5.5 months in the Philippine Army. MacArthur. One wondered whether MacArthur's plans returned to active duty. August 19, 1940, Quezon declared a limited state of national emergency. October 19 or October, MacArthur expressed his consent to nuclear plans and on the Philippines.